With Russia unleashing an aerial attack on central Kharkiv earlier on Thursday. Local officials are saying at least 33 people have been injured at one airstrike near a multi-storey residential building. It's the latest attack as Russia and Ukraine have agreed to another prisoner swap, which seems to be the only progress during the talks that took place in Istanbul between Moscow and Kyiv. Came following the day after President Trump gave Moscow a 50-day peace or face what he describes as very severe tariffs. CNN's Nick Payton-Walsh is on the ground for us. Is there, obviously the violence and the attacks are continuing, but is there a mood change since you were there last, Nick? Bearing in mind that President Trump does seem to be taking a marginally, my word, marginally more muscular approach to Russia.
I think, yes, it's true that Trump's tone over this conflict and the Kremlin has changed, and that's been palpable for weeks. But it's clearly made little difference, as we can see so far, in terms of how Russia is behaving. And the talks yesterday, frankly, were evidence of that. We've had prisoner exchanges, possibly at lesser volume, but they've been occurring regularly over the past months. And these talks maybe were a performative gesture from Moscow to try and suggest to the White House that, yes, they're still going along with the visuals of a peace process. But ultimately, nothing changed. It was barely 40 minutes long, this discussion, and didn't really even get into one of the main Ukrainian tenets of the talks, which is the idea of President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine and President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, meeting face to face. Instead, I think there is now, it's fair to say here in Ukraine, despite the remarkably normal scenes you see behind me. And it's fair to say on many evenings here, this does not feel like a city under siege until the sirens come on. And then life dramatically changes. And we've seen after diplomacy has failed, I should say failed, but ultimately has gone nowhere, as we've been seeing over the past months, that's led to a barrage intensifying from the Russian side. So fears potentially here, we might see that in the nights ahead. But then the key thing that seems to be behind so much of this Russian posturing is their frontline progress, which has been incremental for months. But in the past weeks, I think we've seen around key towns in the east, Richard, things heighten, change, progress by the Russians increasing to the point where it may not just be villages you've never heard of. It may eventually, in the weeks ahead, be something of some significance. And behind all of that, Richard, the bigger problem here in Kiev has been the last few days of protest. The first protest since the start of the war against the Ukrainian government of Zelensky, against his move to try and give some kind of presidential or governmental oversight over an anti-corruption bureau that was put in place to be entirely independent, ultimately to safeguard Western investment and to give Ukrainians the sense of progress that many feel they're fighting the war over. Well, Zelensky moved in a few days ago to put in prosecutorial oversight.
We seem to have lost Nick Payton-Walsh. The line went down there, but we got the important points of what he was talking about.